So we all know about Washington state legislation. Okay. We all know about Seattle's pay up legislation of what, $4 or whatever an order. And they were supposed to pay that on every order in Seattle. And then what did they do? Seattle City Council says you guys are going to pay $4. This is to DoorDash and whatnot. You're going to pay $4 per order for city congestion fees and things like this. But it really was going after them for not paying the drivers correctly. So what happened immediately? Most of you know. Hopefully most of you remember, but here it is. What happened immediately? DoorDash actually charged the customer $5 and called it or whatever they say. However they do it, they're saying, hey, here's that Seattle City Council fee. It's $5. And this is what John and I were having an issue with, because the city of Seattle is only making them pay $4. So not only are they passing that on to the customer, they're making $1 now, another $1 off a fee that was supposed to be imposed on the company. Come on, guys. I mean, seriously, even if the whole amount is $5 and you're not making anything, for you to just pass that on to the customer is so wrong. And they put it as a line item. They put, here's your Seattle City Council delivery fee. And they worded it so that people would hopefully get mad at that. But that led them to also have to levy and raise prices on all of the restaurants. I mean, we talked about that chicken satay place that does the kebabs. And if you guys remember, a few months back, I had the person on from Seattle who was giving us an example of that place, and he actually loved it. He said, I can go in there and get one for $6.50. These great kebabs. I guess there's 3 locations in Seattle of this restaurant. I can go in and get one for $6.50. He said on DoorDash, each one individually, the menu item before any fees, anything is assessed, including the new city fee, this, that, the other, is $19. Are you kidding me? DoorDash. So you're taking a mom and pop's restaurant, because there's only 3 locations. It's not nationwide. It's not a corporation. They only have 3 locations in Seattle. And they make these great kebabs. People know about them all over. They're $6.50 at the location. You're charging $19 on the menu, then fees, then taxes, and then the city council fee. No wonder your customers have dropped to almost 75% volume that they were, which has hurt the restaurant, which has hurt the amount of drivers. I think you can all follow this process of where I'm going and why everybody got hurt in this mess. But and I can't make this up. So DoorDash is now slamming the Seattle over another issue, over driver deactivation law. And unfortunately, DoorDash has now said they will be adding another line fee to the customer to pay for the wrongful or rightful deactivation law. What are we seeing here? All stop fighting for minimum wage. Stop it. If you want 120% of minimum wage, go get any W-2 job, because all the ones I see around here are well over 120% of minimum wage. My McDonald's right here hires for $19 to $22 an hour. Right here down the street from me, $19 to $22 an hour. You don't use your car. It's McDonald's. Maybe that's not the job you want, but are you kidding me? That's like 170% of the, or that's like 180% of minimum wage. So if you're just looking for 120% of minimum wage, go get a W-2. They all pay 140, 150% anyway, but quit screwing around. This is not a joke anymore, guys. You want legislation that is transparency only. Otherwise, you end up with this Seattle mess. And let's get into that while I still have a little bit of a voice, since these audio people are dropping questions left and right. DoorDash is increasing delivery fees for customers in Seattle, citing what it calls extreme regulations passed by the city. So these line items in Seattle are getting ridiculous. So now you have the delivery fee, the taxes, the fees, you have the city council delivery thing, and now you're going to have this deactivation line fee too. People are going to, I mean, they're already not ordering as much. And now you're gonna have to raise prices again. So the chicken kebab is gonna become like what, $22? You guys are insane, dude. It's funny how none of us that do these apps use them. The only apps I ever use, and I won't use Lyft just because I've done it since 2014. But and Uber, but I stopped doing Lyft just before the pandemic anyway, because the paid got so bad. I'm surprised Lyft is still around, but I still do use Uber rideshare when I need it because it's pretty cheap, and I always offer to pay the people. I always offer the driver, hey, what are you making? Especially now with transparency, I haven't got to use it as much, but hey, what are you making on this ride? And as long as they shoot me straight or even semi-straight, they're like, yeah, I'm making $16. And I know I was charged 35. I just say, hey, I'll cancel it right now and pay you 25. That way I'm showing them, like Jeff, I'm giving him a shout out, Jeff at Mike Drop Barbecue. To you audio podcast listeners, you don't know who that is. That's a YouTube channel at Mike Drop Barbecue. He talks about poaching the clients all the time. Get your own clients. Uber's there to set you up with when you click with somebody. This is kind of this is my paraphrasing of Jeff. Like if you don't like somebody, obviously you don't want them as a client. So let that one go by. But the next Uber ride you get, and it's not paying so good, but you're clicking with the person, find out they live there or they come into town every so often. They need some rides while they're there. Boom, make that transaction happen. Make it so that they're your customer. He's basically telling you use it as a jumping platform to get your customers. So, back to but anyway, we don't use these platforms. Can you imagine using a platform in Seattle and doing this work and seeing all those line items? I mean, talk about the screw ups they make. I don't know how you would continue. I mean, it's just so mind boggling. And how like if you want to get 4 of these chicken kebabs, or I'm sorry, 5 of them. 5 of them in the restaurant would cost you $32.50. You'd walk out the door. 5 of them through the app would cost you $97.50 plus fees, plus taxes, plus Seattle City Council fee, plus this new deactivation fee. What's the driver getting? $3? And then that's the final screen, is the tip. No wonder tips are down. So consumers in Seattle will see higher service fees on all orders starting this month. To be clear, we are increasing some fees in an effort to continue delivering in the city. This is a quote from DoorDash, a market in which DoorDash operated a loss in 2024. It's not like it's the only market, DoorDash. So don't make it sound like, hey, because of everything you've done, we had a loss. And I think that was their little plug on this newsletter, or on this article on GeekWire. That was their plug to the businesses, because the businesses have lost millions quarter over quarter since these city councils got passed along, since they raised prices. But anyway, the delivery giant, which reported $3 billion in revenue during the first quarter of this year, calls Seattle, quote unquote, the most expensive market to facilitate delivery in the United States. Who knew? I knew. Some of you knew. And by a wide margin too. DoorDash didn't say how much fees will increase. The move comes as a new driver deactivation law is implemented. Now, remember, this law was passed before, but now it's finally getting implemented. Some of these laws they get passed, and they're like, well, the implementation date is 6 months out. That's how our transparency law worked here. You guys, I'm going to keep hitting on it. Transparency law, removal of driver metrics and full transparency, and boom, we're good to go. You're going to see still a lot of bad offers, but if they don't have any metrics on you and you're just allowed to take the ones that make sense to you, perfect. Be transparent. So the law originally passed by the Seattle City Council, the pay up legislation, which I was speaking about with the line item, was originally passed in August of 2023, which was designed to provide more, as they would say, job security for gig app workers. Please, those words in the same sentence just is no. Under the law, companies must give workers a 14-day, this is mind-boggling, you guys. Under the law, companies must give gig workers a 14-day notice of deactivation. Now, there is a clause in here that says, with the exception of um, certain misconduct, sexual, what things like that might be so extreme that you would have to be. But basically, like, hey, you did a horrible job. You're fired in 14 days. The hell is that? I mean, to me, I almost even have to say, like, who passed this? Because you know what? That person is either going to fight a little bit for not to get out of that deactivation, or they're going to go balls to the wall and just trash your business for 2 weeks. So whoever passed this, I feel like this one was almost like just being mad at DoorDash. So they said, let's do this. That way everybody that's deactivated can just go nuts and thrash them for 2 weeks. So under the new law, companies must give workers a 14-day notice of deactivation, with exception of certain misconducts, base deactivations on reasonable policies, and provide workers with records behind their decision. Partial transparency, but a little too weird for me. The 14-day thing and the fact that they've got all these fees and they've gotten all these ways that they pay the drivers. So once you involve pay, that's why I say transparency and removal of metrics. Anything beyond that, anything involving money, you might wonder why do these companies keep signing that one right into law? Because that's what they want. They love those. They love those, like, active time. You know what active time is? Active time is controlled by the app that you hate. I know I see you guys blowing up the audio. I know you know. So the ordinance was supported by gig worker advocacy groups. Again, this is one of those examples where when people say, "Hey man, you can't make a difference in the laws being presented," usually it's, 10, 20, 30, 50 maybe people writing into the elected officials that they want something changed, and they usually represent under 1% of the drivers in the market. It's just that the other drivers are not taking the time to even do it. That's why I say your voice absolutely matters. I can show you how it has with me, and I can show you some of the other avenues. I'm working on other states for you guys right now. All I need is your help, and luckily I get help from a ton of you guys that email me from those states. Chicago and Illinois is a big one on our radar right now. First one we need to bust on is New Jersey. That one's trying to destroy all independent contractors. But let's get back to this real quick. The deactivation law applies to gig workers who deliver food, shop for groceries, and complete other tasks via on-demand app. It does not apply to rideshare. It's the only thing it doesn't apply to, but it applies to every other gig app. Uber and Instacart filed a lawsuit late last year to stop the enforcement of the law over constitutional concerns, among other allegations. A federal judge denied that effort in January and said they must, again, just like the last thing we talked about, must face their day in court. The law was effective starting in January, and its administrative rules or details implemented guidelines were effective June 24th. The city's Office of Labor Standards says it has received more than 150 worker inquiries since January. 150 people asking why they've been deactivated. That's it. So it's not like it's overload either. If you guys are like, damn, how do they keep up with it? Okay, so I mean, that's it. It's not a lot. But basically, through ongoing outreach and education, the staff has reached thousands of gig workers and ensured they are aware of their right under Seattle's deactivation ordinance. OLS Director Stephen, I'm going to chop his name here, Marchesi, said in a statement, the efforts have proven to be effective as we continue to receive positive feedback from app-based workers in response to our support of the worker transparency due to process rights under this law. I got to tell you guys, I speak to a lot of people in the Seattle market, and that ain't what any driver has told me. Now, there was a little honeymoon period in the beginning of the new pay up and all that crap. But dude, I can tell you this, everybody I know in Seattle tells me the opposite. There's now only and again, if it helps make it so it's not oversaturation to such a degree, that's something else for another discussion. But they've now made it so that more than half of the people doing gig work, there is no gig work for them anymore. The businesses are losing money and they're doing less volume. Customers are having to pay 3 times as much. They said it's the highest paying market. And what does that mean? That means the supply and demand goes way off whack. And there already isn't a need for as many drivers in any market as there is, but that means there's really no need for that. I mean, so therefore you got a bunch of people who literally, I know people who turn on and don't see one order all day, live in Seattle. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? So like here in Colorado with the transparency laws, they're different, but companies are required to report certain records on a quarterly basis starting in June of 2027. So again, giving these companies a far out date like 2027 is like the people who say the end of the world is coming in 2027. And they're the same people who said the end of the world was coming in 2020, 2022, 2024, now 2027. It's one of those. It's just a moving target. So when you allow them, 2 more years of operating before that law, trust me, they won't obey that law and they will understand that your state is weak. So don't buy into this crap. Don't buy into anything with fees. If your state, if you even smell or hear or read an article, forward it to me, steve@ridesharerodeo.com. And if you're like, dude, what is this article? Even if you're confused about it, dude, I don't care. I've just spent a ton of time researching this, or this wouldn't be an area of expertise of mine. This wasn't like a chosen field. It was one that I just kept going down rabbit holes until I met a certain group of people who really expanded the knowledge and made me understand what the hell is going on. And now I apply it to all this stuff, and it all makes sense. So if you read an article that says, hey, we're, this legislation, you might send it to me and I might say, hey, that's kind of what Colorado's is. That's good. Let's get in touch with your lawmakers, or that's bad, or I'm not really certain. The language is too unclear. Let's get in touch with the lawmakers. I'll help you get in touch with them. You guys all know this. So just hit me up. Because the fight is now. The fight is now.